Hello, and welcome to the first edition of Qmailtoaster magazine. I'm your host, Jake Vickers. In this edition, we're going to install Qmailtoaster onto a clean CentOS 5 system. I've tried to set up a system that is very similar to the same type of server you would get if you purchased a dedicated server from a hosting company. We're going to be installing on a 32-bit server, not a 64-bit server. While the two installations are very similar, there are some minor differences, and we're going to cover a 64-bit installation under another video. On to our topic. The first thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and log into our shiny brand new system once the data center has provisioned it and given you the login details. I'm going to go ahead and get logged in here. Now the first thing I like to do as soon as I get logged into a brand new system is go ahead and check everything out and make sure you got exactly what you ordered. I've ordered a lot of dedicated servers from hosting companies and data centers, and unfortunately on occasion when you ask for extra RAM or a larger hard drive you don't always get it, so it makes sense to go ahead and check for these issues now. If you ordered a larger hard drive and you have a smaller one in there when you actually get control of the machine, and you run through the entire process of installing Qmailtoaster, chances are when you make the data center aware of that you have the wrong hard drive, they're either going to move you to a different server or they're going to pull out the smaller one, put in a new one, the one you actually did order, and then install a clean CentOS on there, in which case you're going to lose all of the hard work you've already done. So it makes sense just go ahead and take the extra 20 seconds and check out the server now. I like to check and do free-m just to make sure we got the memory that we asked for, and df-h just to make sure we got this correct hard drive we asked for. It also makes sense to do a cat/proc/CPU info, and this will let you know what size CPU is actually in the machine and how fast it's running. Trust me, take the 20 seconds, check this out. It'll save you a lot of headaches in the future. Once you've checked the system out and it's exactly what you've ordered, the next thing I'd like to do is I like to go ahead and run a yum-y update. And yum update is just going to download all of the latest packages and security issues and fixes that may have come out since the server was installed, or depending on which version of CentOS they installed. -y just tells yum to assume yes for any questions it may have. It will run through here, and depending on which version of CentOS the data center installs for you, this could take a little while. Usually each revision there's between 100 and 200 meg worth of updates, so this might take a little bit if they installed an older version of CentOS. Once that's completed, we need to go ahead and we need to make sure the host name is correct, what we want it for. And you can check what the host name is by just typing in the command hostname. And you can see here we have a host name. Now this is not the one we're going to use for this demonstration. We're going to change this to mail.example.com. You always need to make sure your host name is correct. It's usually a good idea to do it before you install Qmail, since Qmail is going to reference the host name for a few key files. It also makes sense at this point to make sure that your reverse DNS matches your host name. Now, a lot of people will tell you that reverse DNS is not important. Some people tell you that nobody checks reverse DNS and don't bother with it, but I'll warn you right now, a lot of people do. A lot of large companies do. If you don't have reverse DNS even set up, you can't even send emails to large subscriber bases like AOL. Or if it's set up for something incorrectly, a lot of ISPs will block your mail because your reverse DNS does not match your forward DNS. So it makes sense to go ahead and get everything configured now, and I always like to make sure that my host name matches at least one of the entries from my reverse DNS name, just to make sure everything's hunky-dory and everybody's going to be happy with what you're doing. Now to change the host name, we're going to edit your /etc/sysconfig/network file. And in here you're going to see the host name is set. We'll go ahead and we will change this to mail.example.com. Now you can use whatever editor you're more comfortable with. I prefer VI or VIM. I used to use Emacs almost exclusively, but as I got to work on more and more systems for many various clients, I found that Emacs and some other editors are not always installed by default for a distribution. I find that VI or VIM are pretty much installed with every distribution that I've ever worked with on the public internet. So I just got in the habit of using that myself. We'll save and we'll close. Now the next thing we're going to need to do is we need to edit our /etc/hosts file. And in here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove these entries. We're not going to need those any longer. And we're going to add our public IP address. Here we're using a private IP address. Our fully qualified domain name, and then our host name. Save and exit this file. The last thing we're going to need to check and make sure that is set correctly is going to be SE Linux. SE Linux is a protection daemon that runs on your system that basically minimizes the impact that a rogue application can have on your system and what files it can or cannot edit. Unfortunately, SE Linux does not play very nicely with ClamAV or Clam Antivirus, an open source virus scanner. We will be using Clam Antivirus in our Qmailtoaster system because we do want to scan incoming emails for viruses before we pass them on to our users. And you can check to see if SE Linux is even running by typing the command get enforce. And here you can see that the policy is set to enforcing. We need to set this disabled. So we're going to edit the config file, which is /etc/selinux/config. Conveniently, the config file is named config. And we're going to scroll on down here to where it says SE Linux equals enforcing. We're going to change this to disabled. Now you don't have to worry about any of the other settings below this. Once the daemon sees that it's in a disabled status, it's not going to read any of the configuration directives below this, so they don't matter at all. We'll save and we'll close that. Now that we've got this done, it's a good idea to go ahead and just reboot the system to get SE Linux turned off and to set our host name when it boots back up. So we're going to issue a reboot here. You can see our system went away. I like to monitor to see how long the server takes to come back online, and also to make sure it does come back online. There's been an occasion or two where I've rebooted a server and it just never came back up for whatever reason, in which case I need to get a hold of the data center to get the issue corrected or to get console access. So we'll ping ours here. Now would be a good time to go ahead and get Firefox open and get to the Qmailtoaster website. We're going to be using a lot of the utilities off of the main website here to get our system installed. There are manual methods to install Qmailtoaster. We're going to use a lot of the scripts that myself and other various people have written that are on the website to make the process run a little bit quicker. Back when I first got started into Qmail, you had to install everything by source. That, depending on how many patches and variables you wanted to configure, took on average about 6 hours to install for me. That was a long time. The Qmailtoaster package is we're going to be using what are called source RPMs. These are RPM files that contain the source code, but they're pre-configured for your system. This is going to cut our install time down to probably 30 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on how fast you type and how fast your system is. Let's see if our system came back on. Our network card is completely offline there. And now the network card's come back on and it's now answering. So we will go ahead and get out of our ping session and we'll SSH back into it. The system hasn't quite come back up yet. Nope, it had just come back up. Alright, we'll try that again. And as soon as we log back in, you can see at our prompt here we have root at mail. So the host name, we can see pretty much there is already set. We'll go ahead and we'll check this by typing in host name, and we'll see that our host name now matches mail.example.com. We're also going to do hostname-f just to make sure that the fully qualified domain name matches mail.example.com. You can also check hostname-s to make sure that the short name matches exactly what you're looking for. Now let's go ahead and make sure that SE Linux is turned off by typing get enforce. And you can see that SE Linux is now in a disabled status. Now that we've got our system set up and it's pre-configured, we need to go back to the Qmailtoaster website and start getting some of the utilities. We'll scroll down to distribution-specific scripts and info. If you hit the little blue plus sign, it will expand that tab, and you can see here the various distributions that we do support for the Qmailtoaster package. Since we're going to be installing on CentOS, we're going to go into the CentOS directory. We're installing a CentOS 5 32-bit, so we're now going to click on CNT50. The first script we're going to need to grab is the CNT50-deps.sh script. We'll copy that link location, and we will come back here and wget it onto our system. We're going to chmod +x this script to make sure that it's executable and we can run it. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to run the script. What the CNT50 dependency script is going to do is it's going to go through and it's going to remove some conflicts that may arise with the Qmailtoaster system, such as sendmail, and then it's going to install any dependencies we need to actually start building the packages, such as our RPM build utilities, the OpenSSL library so that we can support POP3 SSL, IMAP4 SSL, SMTP SSL if you desire it, and also for TLS for server-to-server traffic. Depending on how the system was provisioned, downloading all these dependencies could take a little bit. It's usually not too bad, though. Most of them are pretty common dependencies for a system to be installed anyway. And you can see here it's going to grab about 128 packages. Quite a few of them are going to go by really, really fast because they're pretty small. A couple of the other ones are going to pause for a couple seconds while they download, depending on your internet connection for your server and what mirror you're connecting to download the packages from. Once we've downloaded all the dependencies, we're going to grab one of the other scripts and we're going to configure the system a little bit more. But you do need all of these dependencies so that you can correctly build the source RPMs for your distribution and architecture. While you're waiting for it to download, now might be a good time to go back to the Qmailtoaster website and scroll through some of the information we do have on the website. Features is obviously going to have the included feature set. These are the features that Qmailtoaster has built into it, so you know exactly what you're getting. Over here on the left-hand side, we have the Qmailtoaster store. We are going to be redesigning the website here in the near future to make it a little more easier to navigate and make sense a little bit more. But we do have some commercial options available over there. A little bit further down, we have the changelog. Every time that I update a package for the Qmailtoaster packaging in general, I try and make sure that I get it into the changelog. So you can scroll here and you can see what changes and when have been made pretty much at a glance. A lot of times you'll see that packages are updated and you may not even use that particular package or you may not use that functionality, so updating a package for you may not be a necessity. Under stable packages are going to be our stable packages, Here you can click on each and every single individual package and download them individually if you'd like, or you can copy the link location and wget them to your system. We're going to use one of the handy scripts a little bit later on to download all the packages in one nice fell swoop and get everything up and running fast. We'll collapse that tab. Development packages are for the upcoming release. Unless you really know what you're doing, you probably don't want to mess with those too much. Let's see if our dependencies are done. And it's getting the last couple. Miscellaneous downloads, support, and links. Here you'll find a wealth of information. We do have the link for our wiki, which is also our online documentation. There's a wealth of information on the wiki. We try and put any question that gets asked frequently over and over on the mailing list, we try and put them on the wiki in the FAQ section. Also on the wiki is going to be a lot of user-contributed how-tos on how to add things or tweak things on your system. Plus there's explanations for pretty much every file on there and how to configure it. The wiki is a community-driven documentation project, so if you have some expertise in writing some documentation or you figure out something that isn't quite listed on there yet, please take the time, write up the documentation for us. We'll see that something new has been added, and if it's not exactly clean or you're worried about your writing style, somebody will come back through and clean it up so that it makes a little more sense. We also have links to our mailing list on here. Our mailing list is where a lot of us provide free support for Qmailtoaster. If you can't find the information on the wiki, you're more than welcome to come over, join the mailing list, which you are required to join. When you send it, you just got to send an empty message to the address listed here. When you do that, you'll get a confirmation back just verifying that yes, you actually did want to join. After that, you can post questions to the list and the community can answer them for you. If you can't find the information on the wiki, feel free to come over and check out the mailing list and ask your question there. Myself and quite a few other users that have a lot of experience with Qmailtoaster do frequent the list. We are installing our packages. There's also a developer mailing list that you can join. There's not a lot of traffic on this one. This one has to do with Qmailtoaster development and the upcoming releases. And we also have a public repository of the user list. So if you have a question that isn't answered in the wiki, come over to the repository or the archives and just do a quick search to see if the question hasn't been answered already. Our archives do go back, I believe, 3 or 4 years. So chances are, if you have a question over the last 3 or 4 years, somebody else has probably asked it as well, and it's probably already in the archives. Under downloads, we also have some other applications you can download. We also have some other links. Let's collapse that tab. Under software credits, you're going to see the software credits for the various packages that we use in Qmailtoaster. Qmail, as an example, is by DJ Bernstein, and here's his web address you can go to and read more about Qmail itself. And we'll close that one up. Let's go back to our install here. And you can see that we have all of the dependencies installed now. We're going to go back to the Qmailtoaster site. The next script we're going to want to download is going to be the CNT50 svcs.sh script. We'll copy that link location. We'll wget it over here. And we also need to grab the firewall.sh script, since the svcs script is going to reference this one. We'll go ahead and we will chmod +x all of our .sh scripts. And now you're going to need to edit the CNT50-svcs script. This is the services script. What this is going to do is this is going to enable some of the needed services for Qmailtoaster and set up the vPopMail database for the vPopMail portion of Qmailtoaster. What you need to edit in here is your MySQL password. Chances are on a brand new installation that you just received from a data center, they did not set a root MySQL password. As such, this script is going to create one for you. And you obviously want to define what yours is going to be, otherwise it's going to be in capitals your MySQL password. And here we're going to change this to example 221. We will save and close this. Now we need to edit the firewall script as well. And in the firewall script, we need to set my IP equals, and you need to set this to your public IP address. The reasoning behind this is the firewall is going to set a lot of specific rules that are going to apply only to your specific IP address. Enter your public IP address in there. Of note, if you're not running Qmailtoaster behind a firewall and it does have a public IP, it doesn't hurt to uncomment these two IP tables rules. These two rules just block private IPs from accessing your public IP address, because you should never really have a private IP browsing across the internet. It'll all be natted behind a public IP, which is going to be your router or firewall. We'll save and we'll close that. And now we need to go ahead and run our CNT50 services script to set up the services that we need. And it's all run, and it's set up Apache and MySQL. You can check to make sure that the firewall is up and running by running iptables-L-N. And this will show you the rules that are in effect for the firewall on the machine. You'll see that it's opened the common ports that we're going to need for a mail server / web server. 25 obviously for SMTP traffic. 80 is going to be open so that people can access their webmail, which is going to be squirrel mail, and so on and so forth down the list. Now that we've got that installed, we need to go ahead and download the packages. And I suggest we go ahead and make a directory here, and we're going to call it QMT for Qmailtoaster. We'll CD into the Qmailtoaster directory. Let's go back to our website and get the current download script. And the current download script is going to, as the name suggests, download the current packages from the website. So we will wget that. We'll chmod it so that it's executable, and then run it. And this handy script, like I said, is just going to download each and every last individual stable package for you. This saves you the trouble of having to go on the website under stable packages, click on each one and save it, or copy the link location, come back here and wget each package. This will take just a couple minutes to download all the packages. So we will fast forward to the end, and when we come back, we'll be ready to start installing our system.